Awesome. Well, Chase, it's been a while since you've been on the channel since last time, but we have you back on, but in a different space. You are now one of the head honchos, I would say, for Universal Tennis. You moved away from the college tennis space and are going into a more elaborate role within the whole sport of tennis. So thank you so much for joining us today, man.
Awesome. I think the last time I saw you, you were playing a UTR tournament at Georgia Gwinnett. So it was great seeing you then, and obviously certainly appreciate all that you're doing for our sport and college tennis, et cetera. So happy to be on. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. And I think the first thing and the main thing why we brought you back onto the channel was to talk about this NIT Universal Tennis Championships. And in March, around early March, Universal Tennis announced that it's going to be hosting the first NIT type tournament for college tennis. Now, where do we start with this idea? How did this come about, and what made you overall kind of decide that this was something needed in college tennis?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, it was something that obviously we were discussing in really February. And we announced in March, so we were able to kind of move pretty quickly in terms of saying, hey, this is something that we need to do to support college tennis. As you know, Philip, there's a ton of programs out there that are really high level programs that don't get an opportunity to compete in the NCAA championships. When you really study the makeup of Division One, for example, you have teams that potentially are in that 40 to 50 range from a national ranking that do not get bids. These are teams that may be middle of the pack in a Power Five conference, or they could be teams that are really a finalist in a conference championship. So the way that we really structured this was give those teams an opportunity to compete for a national championship. We're going to do it at Peachtree City Tennis Center, which is a beautiful facility located right outside of Atlanta. So it's extremely close to the Atlanta airport. You can fly in and out of Atlanta all over the country. So it's perfect access for potential schools. And, the big kicker here is it's going to be on Amazon Prime. So it's going to be on Prime Video. So, having that on for college tennis, showcasing a national championship for college tennis on Prime Video, for us is huge to be able to bring that to college tennis. And we couldn't be more excited. This will be obviously the first one of its kind, and this is something that we really plan on doing on an annual basis. May 17th through May 20th will be the event, and it's going to feature 8 men's teams and 8 women's teams. You win, you move on. You have an opportunity to win a national championship. And, for college tennis, this is something that personally I think we've needed for a long time. And we're just thrilled to be able to bring it to life.
And it's amazing that we're finally kind of integrating what we've seen in so many other sports too in college, for basketball, especially having that March Madness and kind of bringing that March Madness feel to college tennis as well, with having this opportunity for other teams that just missed the cutoff for the NCAA team championships. And I wanted to ask more specifically too, would this also include, is this solely a team NIT tournament, or are we going to have singles and doubles championships like we would for the NCAAs or team aspect of it?
I'm gonna write that down. I think that's a great idea. Let me write that down. I think that's something ultimately down the road that we could consider. But for this May of 23, Philip, it's going to be just a team event. So it's going to be a team national championship, 8 teams men, 8 teams women. At the end of the 4 days, we'll have one team holding up that national championship trophy. So that's going to be the format for this first year. But I think that what you mentioned obviously is a great idea, and certainly open to great ideas. So I think as we start to move forward in the future, our biggest win here obviously is getting this on Prime Video, and I'm really excited to get it on Prime Video, and putting these teams in a position where their program's really going to be elevated, to be able to show it to the masses. And I think it's going to be a big recruiting help for a lot of these programs as well, to get your program on prime and competing for a national title. So, we've had, just from conversations with coaches all the United States, we've been in a position where, response has been incredible. Coaches reaching out, hey, how do I get selected for this? How is this going to work, et cetera. And to answer that here publicly, I mean, we have an NIT committee who will be looking at in terms of determining who these 8 teams are going to be. Obviously, we'll be moving extremely fast. As soon as those NCAA bids go out, we'll be offering the NIT bids pretty much instantaneously right after that. So it's going to be an interesting situation there. UTR Power 6 will be a key factor in terms of selection. It won't be the end all be all by any means, but it will be a metric that we use in terms of gauging potential bids to go out.
And for this committee too, will you also have a selection show, or will it just be an announcement made a week after or a couple days after?
It'll be a couple days after, and we'll be doing something special for those teams on our social media channels to announce what teams that we'll have in the field. So we expect relatively quick to have an announcement out of the 8 teams on each side that are going to be competing.
Okay. And for you guys too, and you just mentioned the NIT committee that you guys have ready on hand to select the teams right after the NCAA selection show. What goes into that criteria? Because I feel like a lot of people, and if you do know the criteria, we would like to know how one would get selected. Like you said before, there are teams that may have just missed it or made the conference finals and then weren't selected for the NCAA. So what are the determining factors for those that may want a little bit more detail into that?
Yeah, so it's a great question. So as I mentioned, Power 6 is going to be a big one. Being able to see, UTR top 6, really looking at that cumulative total in terms of the teams that did not get in. Secondly, it's going to be we will look at rankings. We will look at, where they finished in the rankings, et cetera. Third, we will look at head-to-head victories, et cetera, in terms of key victories that these teams had throughout the season that need to be factored into whether or not they should be a potential selection or not. Strength of schedule. Strength of schedule will be another metric that we'll be really examining. And, the other one that I feel that you really see in March Madness that with basketball and that we're really going to be looking at is, who's playing their best tennis right now. In terms of, if you're really peaking and starting to play your best tennis in April and May, then that's something that is 1000% going to be on our radar versus maybe a team that picked up some really big wins in January, February, and then maybe cooled off near the tail end of the season. We're looking for teams that are, playing their best tennis in May and April. And really that's going to be a big metric for us as well.
And this may sound a little off the cuff or blunt, but would you say that's very recency bias? You could have a team that had an entire good season, and then the last month they kind of were not feeling it, and they may have had a slippery slope where they just couldn't find their form for the last 3-4 weeks of the season. Would that mean that they would have a lesser chance of getting into the NIT tournament than it would for another team?
That's a good question. So, I mean, ultimately the full body of work will carry weight. However, to answer your question more directly, if we have a team that's extremely hot in the last 3 or 4 weeks of the season, playing extremely good tennis versus a team that, maybe has a similar body of work, who really picked up their best results, typically earlier in the season, then I would say the edge would go to the team that's, put those results together later, if the work is similar. So, that to us, we want to be rewarding teams that, have really progressed throughout the season and improved. And, that's how I think the selection will really play out. But with that being said, I mean, it's going to be interesting because, you know, as you mentioned, there's a ton of good teams out there that aren't going to get selected that are going to be extremely worthy. So it's going to be very difficult to pick 8 teams, you know, so it's definitely not going to be easy. So, you know, especially when you really look at, you know, the subset of teams out there, you know, right now we're really examining, say, 40 to 50 teams, Philip, in terms of that are kind of on that bubble on both sides. And, you know, it's really interesting when you really start to delve into it because, man, it's crazy in terms of the depth in college tennis. I mean, you got some really outstanding teams that aren't going to get a bid. And it's crazy when you really examine it because you see, you know, there's a tiny, I mean, we're talking a sliver of difference between a team that is really going to be on the outside looking in versus a team that's going to get in. And, you know, a lot of things go into factor. You know, there's a lot of, you know, these automatic bids all over the country and in conference championships. You know, you got to factor those in, and, you know, in terms of those are taking bids away from other teams, obviously. So, you know, it's going to be interesting. Looking forward to it, obviously. You know, this next 6 weeks is going to be a lot of fun.
It's going to be a lot of, I love using the term controlled chaos because you're very excited about doing it, but then all of a sudden it hits you and you're going, crap, I don't know what to do now with everything that just has been thrown at me in the last 48 hours. But I love how this is kind of getting more teams involved. It's getting more fans involved as well. I think the Amazon Prime thing, you have to talk about a little bit more because how were you able to get that Amazon Prime streaming service? Because I feel like that's, for a lot of people, it's hard to understand how big that, or how big an audience you can capture with Amazon Prime Video, especially being, I believe, in free, correct? You can watch, you don't need, do you need a Prime?
I mean, if you're a Prime, if you have a Prime membership, obviously it's included as an add-on at no extra charge.
Oh, wow.
But yeah, so it's one of those where to kind of give you the back end of that is our UTR Pro Tennis Tour is on Amazon Prime. It's on Prime Video. So that really opened the door up for us to make this happen for college tennis is having that relationship and you know, building that relationship. And, you know, we announced back in January that our Pro Tennis Tour was going to be on Prime. And if you can go on Prime right now, Philip, and see events all over the world that are currently, you know, from Argentina down to, you know, I know there's one coming up in Atlanta next week, to Boca Raton, to really all over the world where our Pro Tennis Tour is. All those events, you know, having the ability to get on Prime Video is just huge. Not only for universal tennis, but it's just huge for those players. Obviously, they're getting an opportunity to, you know, play pro tennis, have an opportunity to, you know, fulfill their dreams, compete in prize money events. You know, one interesting stat, Philip, is, you know, it's around 1,500 players that are in our UTR Pro Tennis Tour are current college players or former college tennis players. So, you know, we've been elated with the success of that tour in terms of offering an innovative format. You know, you play these events, Philip, and you're getting, you know, 4 or 5 matches throughout the course of a week. It's guaranteed prize money, regardless of how many matches you win or lose. You're going to walk away with something. So, you know, and you're really able to develop your game in these events.
Absolutely.
You know, they happen over the whole course of a week. You know, it's not a situation where you just play one match. If you lose, you're done. These events, you're playing multiple matches throughout the whole course of a week. The prize money is extremely competitive in terms of what you get. And, you know, we've seen these events as really a great training and breeding ground for players all over the world. And, you know, we're certainly elated with that. And, you know, that experience that we have with the Pro Tennis Tour really set up the relationship to make this happen for college tennis with the NIT. So that's kind of the background there.
No, it's amazing because I feel like it's not every day you get to showcase kids, and it seems like it's such an easier way of saying, hey, where can I watch my team? Where can I watch my kid? Where can I watch my grandson, because that's how it really starts. When you think about it, when you have all these people that ask, oh, where can I have access to it? When you say Amazon,
Right.
people have that ability to go, okay, that's easy enough. Let me see if I can
Right.
go find it.
Right. Right. It's easy to find,
Yeah,
just go in your, just, turn the TV on, basically search tennis and we pop up.
I love that.
So, it's very easy access. And, it's going to be a lot of fun here with the NIT championships and Prime Video, because, being able to, have college tennis fans, all over the country, all over the world tune in. For us, it's just a huge win. And, we're elated for the college programs, for the coaches, and, anything that we can do to elevate and innovate our great sport, we're going to try to do. And, I think this is just one step towards that.
Absolutely. And I appreciate you taking time to talk to us about this, because this is such a, I wouldn't say a new concept, but definitely a game changer moving forward for a lot of tennis teams, at least on the Division I level. And I think I have a couple more questions for you. One, is the tournament always going to be set in Atlanta? Because I feel like now with the NCAA's always being showcased in Orlando at the National Tennis Center because of the amount of courts that they have. Is
Mhm.
Atlanta kind of the main hub now for the NIT tournament, or is it so new that we're still looking at or open to new possibilities?
That's a great question. So, you're asking the tough questions here. I love it.
I have
Um,
to.
yeah, yeah. So, well, Peachtree City, I don't know if you've been. I mean, really the mindset here in year one at Peachtree City, just so you're aware, it's going to be 2 years for sure at Peachtree City, and then
Okay.
after that, we'll see what happens. But I mean, I do think that the mindset here is you build something. You look at the College World Series. I mean, Omaha, Nebraska, it's an incredible environment. You
Mhm.
look at what Athens, Georgia created for college tennis all these years, and the environment. Obviously, you just experienced it, how amazing that environment is. So, our mindset is, can Peachtree City create that environment over time? And if so, how awesome would it be to have the NIT championships in one area where you get the local support, you get the community support, and you get everybody all in terms of what you're doing. So, that's kind of the goal in
Mhm.
terms of being able to create an environment that you keep consistent over time, and it kind of becomes the home of that. And one thing I can say is our friends down there in Peachtree City are ecstatic to have this event,
Mhm.
and we're ecstatic to bring it there. So the future, we'll see what the future holds, but I think in the immediate, we got a really good site and location.
And in terms of immediate kind of ideals that you have right now, is the future of this to grow the bracket? Because 8 teams to me personally is pretty,
Mhm.
it's pretty small
Yep.
for at
Yep.
least for an NIT tournament, because
Sure.
I think I think a lot of people would like to have another big draw, or at least have that 32 team feel.
Yeah. The opportunity to grow 1000%.
Mm.
I think that that's definitely on the radar. I think the mindset in terms of starting small was really more so of, let's do this thing right
Hmm.
in year one, and let's gradually build up. Maybe next year it becomes 16. Who knows? Moving into the future, but the mindset early on was, let's put this thing on right. Let's do it the right way, and let's put on a phenomenal experience for these student athletes and coaches. But to your point, I definitely think that growing it in the future is an avenue that we can look to pursue.
And Chase, I can't thank you enough for doing this. And I think my last question to you
Yeah.
is there, I know this one's going to be a little tougher to answer, but is there ever a possibility to have all divisions play against each other for a tournament? Is that is that
Absolutely.
is that a possibility that you guys could create, or is that tough to do with different scheduling?
Yeah, I think really it just comes down to the time of year. When would you be looking to do that event? Is that something that you'd want to do? You know, early in the spring and the fall, et cetera. I mean, there's a lot of different factors that could play into that, but coming from a school like Georgia Gwinnett, and having that experience, I think that would be incredible to see a school like Georgia Gwinnett compete against a SEC team in an event, or something to that degree, and to really the NAIA Division III, Division II, as teams at the top of those divisions are extremely talented, and giving them opportunities to compete against the best of the best, I think would be an incredible format, incredible opportunity. It would be great for all of college tennis. Definitely something that we've had discussions about. So I think that's another idea that is phenomenal. I'm just going to write that one down as well. I mean, you're giving me a few here.
I would like to take credit and have this. I would like all of you are witnesses. If any of these ideas, I would like
that's all you
a piece. I would like a piece of revenue. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, there you go.
That's all I'm saying.
There you go. There you go. No, I mean, I do think that, to your point, I think that would offer a ton of excitement, in terms of, cross divisions, et cetera. And, I think that it would just be good for the general ecosystem of all of college tennis. So, I think it's definitely something that we could pursue in the future, potentially.
Absolutely. And Chase, I can't thank you enough for doing this. I really do appreciate it. Is there anywhere besides social medias, anything you want to shout out so that way people can know more about this or follow along so that way they don't miss any updates for this NIT tournament coming up?
Yeah, so follow Universal Tennis on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. We're all over the place. We will be putting out consistent updates. We are looking forward to the future of college tennis. We're extremely excited about the product we have, and our biggest mission, I say it all the time, is innovate and elevate. That's ultimately what we want to do for college tennis. And if we can really focus on that, then I think that ultimately our college coaches and all of our college student athletes are going to be in a phenomenal position moving forward into the future. So we're certainly excited. And, anytime I can jump on a podcast or an interview with you, Philip, I certainly would love to get on. And one thing I want to do is give you a shout out, because I follow you as well, and just seeing, what seeing the behind the scenes, whether it's at Middle Tennessee or Wake Forest or University of Georgia, wherever it may be, that insight is what our student athletes and coaches need. There needs to be that kind of behind the scenes access and insight into what these programs are all about. And as a former college tennis coach for 25 years, I think we both love this sport. It's an amazing sport. And, I think ultimately we just need to let the whole world know about it. So, kudos to you for what you're doing.
Thank you. I really do appreciate those kind words. It really does mean a lot. So guys, if you haven't already, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Make sure to leave a like on this video to show your appreciation. Go check out the Universal Tennis overall and check out its NIT tournament coming up in May, I believe from the 17th to the 20th. You can catch it on Amazon Prime. And thank you again, Chase, for joining us. It's always a pleasure having you on, man. Such a positive person, such a delight. And we'll see you guys next time. Thank you so much for watching, guys.